What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Citizens of Gaming podcast. I'm Tim.
Hey, this is Josh.
I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite podcast on the Citadel.
Oh,
Quick little
I like
spoilers
that.
as to what
That was
today's
good.
episode about. Of course, this is another deployment episode series. This episode is going to be massive. Kind of a little pun there. I'm not really sure what kind of effect it would have on people. Whoa, double pun. If you couldn't guess yet, today's about Mass Effect. I know it's Brendan's absolute favorite game series. I know Josh really loved it as well.
I don't know about absolute favorite, but it's definitely up there. It definitely holds a lot of value for me and Josh, for sure.
If you guys remember,
Absolutely.
I did try to play it. I didn't hate it. I want to start out by saying this is not a bad series at all. It's actually a really good game. It's a great series. It's just not for me.
You played it on its good terms, though, with its the Legendary Edition. If
Yes.
you would have attempted to play it like I did back in the day with, the rough first game, and then the second game obviously was great, because that had... Gosh, Brendan, was that the first... Was the second... Yeah, the second one was the first one you got me into. But yeah, Tim, yeah. You, that first one was rough
It was.
on the 360.
Like I said, I want to really make sure that I didn't hate the game. It's just not my style of game. It's
The thing, it's something I've probably said it a couple times on this podcast, is like, not every game is for everyone. Like,
right.
There are those games that are, amazing, 10 out of 10s, whatever, that just aren't for you because you don't like that style of game. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You should play what you want to play.
Right.
Yeah.
I definitely gave the game a shot, or the game series. I don't want to say game because we're not talking about just one. We're talking about 3, 4. And there's nothing saying that I won't pick it back up down the road. We also did have, other games come out during that time, or that time when I kind of stopped playing. So I may very well pick it up down the road. But
I mean, you better, because those choices you made that led you into some questionable freaking sacrifices. I mean, you might just want to restart your playthrough.
Well, we should also mention that this will be probably full of spoilers. So if for some reason you plan on playing Mass Effect or haven't been spoiled and are planning on playing it not being spoiled, we will probably be going into spoiler territory. So this is fair warning ahead of time.
yes,
I
absolutely.
think we will be going into spoiler
definitely.
territory.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just throwing it out there because
with the scope of this
somehow
game,
you haven't been spoiled about. Yeah.
with the scope of
Somehow
this
you
game,
haven't
there's
been spoiled. I don't ruin it
yeah.
for somebody.
There's a lot.
There's no way we can't spoil this game without talking about it, especially with all the different scenarios and all the different choices that you make and how it impacts the game as a whole.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to start off on a positive about this game. One thing that I absolutely loved about it, and I wish more games would do something like this, is the choices you make have an impact on the game. To the point that the choices you made in game 1 had an impact on game 2. And I assume, because I never got this far, that they had an impact on game 3 as well.
Yep. It's not perfect. Some of them do kind of drop offs, but like if you pay attention enough and you really do everything and kind of read everything and pay attention, there is a ton of stuff that gets paid off, but it only gets paid off through a message to Commander Shepard, the main character who you play. Some of it only gets paid off in messages or some kind of background text or something else like that. But there are definitely storylines throughout. That start in the first one, they go through to the third one. Even little stuff, it's not obviously the big stuff, the main story points that you do connect through all 3. But even just little side stuff that you did, it's actually there's this whole dialogue / storyline that pays off in 3 from all this dumb, tedious junk that you did in the first one that ended up not serving a purpose in the franchise, and so they literally dump it into this one little quest line in Mass Effect 3. because it was something that people were talking about, like oh, like because they changed stuff mechanically between 1, 2, and 3. So like some stuff didn't make sense to have again back in 2 and 3. And
Yeah.
so this quest was literally like the first game you had to buy like licenses so that on your on ship salesman could sell those types of guns or whatever. And it was supposed to be important and it was supposed to matter for the rest of the franchise, but they dropped it after the first game because they realized it was a bad mechanic and it just kind of hampered things and didn't really do anything.
Yeah.
Um, but then in the third game, again, this little random like wrap up side quest thing that you can do, like it comes up whether or not you actually bought those licenses,
Oh,
and uh, and you can pass or kind of like fail the quest if you haven't done it.
I didn't
uh,
notice that.
so
That's pretty. I mean, like that's I would say I noticed more sensible like crossovers between Mass Effect 2 and 3 compared to like 1 and 2. Because I feel like obviously, that's when they really had their, the ground to stand on when they had done 2. But I mean, there is a lot of quirky throwbacks, run-ins with, like, I guess the best way to put it is like there's this mission on the Citadel in Mass Effect 1. You run into this serviceman, and it's just a pointless conversation, and you end up running into him, I believe, in, was it 2? I think it was 2. I mean, it's just they did a decent job just kind of like bringing across pointless things, because I mean, I guess if you're in love with the game as much as I am and Brenden is, or countless other people are, you'll notice that stuff, and it's hilarious because sometimes they'll kind of like bring it over in just kind of like a funny, quirky way, and you're just like, okay, I get it. That's great. You know?
so let's back up real quick. Mass Effect 1 was released in November 2007. Mass Effect
Yep.
2 was released in January of 2010. Mass Effect 3 was released in March of 2012. And Mass Effect Andromeda, even though it's kind of the bastard child of the series from what I've picked,
Andromeda,
Andromeda,
Andromeda.
my bad, duh. It was released in March of 2017.
Yep.
Um,
Mhm.
are all created by BioWare. Uh,
Yep.
Came out for PlayStation and Xbox and PC.
Uh, the original one actually was a 360 exclusive.
Hmm.
Uh, at time of release. Because these are also all published by Electronic Arts, EA.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, the first one was supposed to be 360 exclusive, and originally like the entire franchise was possibly going to be, but then that ended up not panning out. So then then 2 and 3 got released on PS3, 360, and PC respectively.
Okay.
Um, and then you couldn't play Mass Effect 1 on PS3 until they released the Mass Effect trilogy, which was like a completed collection that they released. I think it's like 2013, 2014 maybe. Um, and once they did that, this is the first time you could play the entire collection together. And then yeah, most recently, in May of 2021, they released the Legendary Collection, which was everything compiled together in one package with new and updated visuals and sound and bug fixes and yada yada yada, all that stuff.
So, go
Oh,
ahead.
yeah, go ahead, Tim.
No, go ahead. I'll go then.
It's yeah, go.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, do you want to give us a quick overview synopsis of the game?
Yeah, I can do that. So Mass Effect is more or less, I mean, in general terms, it's a action. It's an RPG shooter hybrid. Uh, One of the earliest games to really do that, and it is a kind of giant space opera, I guess is the best way to put it. It's this giant galaxy-spanning adventure. You go across the Milky Way, um, and your main goal is to find and stop this group of sentient machines called the Reapers. And you play as Commander Shepard, who you can customize and change his first name, and you can also pick like his backstory and his previous service inside of the Alliance, which
And
is like the Earth space military.
mind you, you can also pick a female version.
Yes, male and female Shepard. Um, and those choices, again, something we mentioned a little bit before, is like those choices actually do make a difference across the whole series. Um, yeah, you basically play Commander Shepard, and then you build. Well, you find your squad mates, which are made up of other humans and some aliens from throughout the galaxy, and you get very, very, I mean, different squad mates really for each game. There's a couple of them that go through the whole game or through the whole series. But yeah, I mean, the closest thing you can kind of compare it to is Star Wars. Just because, Star Wars is also a giant space opera where you're just kind of hopping around in different areas of space, and it's a little bit fantastical, but it's still this very like good sci-fi story, against a hero, against a galactic threat. And I mean, yeah, it's
It
it,
it
it's
really
no, go ahead, Josh.
it really encompasses, I guess, if you wanted to put it in like a quick term, when it comes to like the choice base, like you were mentioning, it really encompasses friendship, love, and trust, like wholeheartedly. Like that, like is the embodiment of the choice factor throughout the entire franchise. With like all these characters, like you say, when you put the team together, this and that, it really brings in a personal attachment to every single character, which is what drives the game forward because of that personal connection. It magically gets you to feel pretty quickly, I'd like to say.
I mean, I don't think there's anything magical about it. Like all of maybe not.
I beg to differ. I mean,
Well,
shoot.
no, I just mean like I mean it. You're right. It does get you to care, but I don't think that's by magic. Like it's because all these characters are, in particular, your squad mates, your teammates, are so well written and
Oh yeah.
so like defined as characters, um, that like you can find someone among your crew that you relate to or that you that you don't like, because I mean you can ask anybody, like everybody's got their favorite and least favorite squad mates throughout the
Oh, yeah.
series.
It
Ashley.
it because it's they did such a great job at bringing. I mean, each squad mate has their own sort of like personality,
Yeah,
realistically, and you can learn, and especially how they set up the dialogue and like how these people, approach conversations when you're talking to them or whether they're responding to another squad mate. It really allows you to be like, I really don't like you.
The
yeah,
interaction of the NPCs is next level in my opinion, in that
It is.
aspect.
yeah.
Yes.
I don't remember. It's from the first Mass Effect. Like I said, I wasn't well vested into this game, but I don't remember exactly which one of your squad mates it was. But you have the option to kill her mother, who's gone rogue, if I remember correctly,
Liara.
Liara. Yeah.
and
Liara.
that has an impact on her. I don't know how big of an impact throughout the entire series, but at least in Mass Effect 1 and from a little bit of Mass Effect 2, it has an impact on her. And, she's obviously upset about this, even though her mom's gone, was it rogue? And she was going against the Citadel and what they wanted. And she was helping out Saren.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you call it? Not to cut you off, Brendan, but Liara is the driving romance within the game. She is like the game shifts all avenues towards her realistically. I mean, when it comes to the romance options, there are plenty others.
Well,
But not in the first, I guess you
I
could
was gonna
say.
say the first one you have two options depending on
Yes.
which gender
Yeah.
you are.
And I mean, because like, so it really derives like that personal connection with her, at least what the first game tries to do. And I mean, even like I think Tim, back when you first started playing, I remember you directly not liking Ashley right away because she doesn't like alien species
She's
specifically.
She's a xenophobe. Yeah.
Yeah, and
she
you caught that quick too. I remember you were like, "Okay, can you kick her off the ship?"
yeah. So again, I don't want to dig politics into this, but she was essentially racist towards aliens, which mine, I don't know. It kind of a hard thing to grasp, I guess, in a video game. But at the same time, like I didn't like it because like these people are offering their services to us and they're trying to help us find Saren. And then here she is being like really negative about these other people for no reason other
Well,
than
yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
it what do you call it? Uh that I guess to answer like to like wholeheartedly answer that is with like the entire story of Mass Effect. Humanity is like this virgin species that we kind of like shotgunned our way into like all of like the universe realistically and kind of like just bulldozed our way into the politics of all the other species that was already established. And our first run-ins with the Turians, I believe, was not good, which was the first contact war, I believe, and that had really salted humanity's first extraterrestrial experience with another, alien species. So humanity immediately with, these higher intelligent species kind of like shunning on humanity had created this profound effect that everybody there's like I mean there's a lot of references throughout each of the Mass Effect games of that type of treatment towards alien species from the humans
And then it
Well,
also
specifically.
go ahead, Brandon.
no, go ahead, Tim.
I was just gonna. It also goes the other way because you can tell that some of the alien species think that they're superior to humans and they look down upon humans as well.
Yeah, well, they think humans are bullies.
Well, it's again it plays into the dynamics and the lore of Mass Effect in general. Specifically with Ashley, if you talk to her and you get to know her and you find out about her history,
Which
you
I did
find
not,
out that
obviously.
right. But like, I'm not saying that her racism is justified, but you understand where she's coming from because of that.
Right.
Yes.
Um, she like her grandfather fought in the first contact war and he was I forget his exact rank, but he was in charge of a base that got attacked by Turians during the first contact war, and the Turians like surrounded him, starved him out, and he is officially the only person to ever surrender to any alien force in
Yes.
Earth Alliance history. He's the only
Yeah.
one. So she's carrying, a bit of a grudge against that. And she also thinks that, humanity's great and kind of has deserved and earned its place in that culture and that nobody's going to hand them anything, which I mean, again, she's kind of right. She's just misunderstanding like the end game, I guess is the best way to put it. Like some of her reasoning isn't entirely inaccurate. She's just drawing the wrong conclusions from it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, she refers to that incident with her father because her father was a substantial, leader, and obviously, like you
Grandfather.
said, when our grandfather, when he was the first, to surrender like that, she refers to it as the Williams curse, because like everybody knows by that last name what it's tied to, and you learn that, like Brendan was saying, and you kind of see why she harbors such a kind of profound hate for, alien species. And but on that fact is, as you get to progress dialogue with every character in the game, let's say specifically her, you kind of help her grow away from that, because as the events of the game progress, the bond between you and your teammates, including her and, the other people she's with, kind of like changes her for the better. So not only you, as you experience the game, get to feel that change, you watch your actions change all the characters around your squad.
And see, I never got that far. I never got that in depth with it. When I was playing through Mass Effect, the first one, I was more or less kind of trying to do side quests, trying to get to know my people without actually doing it. I was more just trying to get through it so I could get to Mass Effect 2, where it really opens up a little bit more, it gets easier to play, and get to 3, which I never got to,
Yeah.
because it opens up even more and gets even easier to play. 1
Yeah.
even having been remastered for, Xbox One and, last gen and this gen, it was still a hard game to play in a sense.
Yeah, well, because respectfully to a lot of players out there, Mass Effect isn't one of those games you can just go through and just play for the action alone. It comes along with heavy dialogue,
Well, yeah,
and that yeah
it's an RPG. Like, you are playing a role, and that role is Commander Shepard, and not all of it's pointy shoot shoot. There's
Yes.
a lot of there is a lot of talking and dialogue, and again, that's part of where the decision making comes into play. Is if you don't have that dialogue, and all that background information, and all that other stuff that you get from not shooting stuff, then you are just, I mean, kind of handicapping yourself, but then you're also kind of
Yeah.
missing the point of what an RPG is. I mean, um,
It's
again, that's why this game is not for everybody. Is some people do not want that amount of lore, dialogue, having to run around in a circle talking to people and have those conversations.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the biggest, also one of the, I mean, this is probably a small little minute detail, but when it comes to like picking your squad, so basically when it came to doing missions and things like that, you could pick up to 2 squad mates to join you on said missions, and as you grow your team and gain more members, you get to choose other people to accompany you on missions, and it's pretty that was absolutely one of the more finer touches on that, because a lot of missions, as you played through and through over and over, depending on it, how many times you replayed through the series, which probably a lot of people don't, but I have. It's probably most replayed game I've ever had in my collection. And with that said, every time you bring certain characters on certain missions, there's different dialogue for each character. So it's almost like, okay, let's say you chose to take these 2 characters on this mission. You are missing out on dialogue that another 2 characters possibly could have had during that mission. So it's the replayability is massive. And I guess, where I'm trying to get with this is, I think the cherry on top when it came to Mass Effect 3 with all that, like, bringing your squad mates with you on missions was one of the final DLCs. I forget the name of the DLC. Um, you in that final DLC embodied that choice system of like all 3 games bringing your select few with you on missions, and they added in a little quirky detail in the mission where your squad mates get jealous and they're like, you who are you going to take with you, and the game like presses on that, like that unknown like anxiety of like, oh wait, wait, what, they have feelings about this, Brennan, you probably know what I'm referring to,
Oh
but
yeah, no, yeah, you're thinking of the Citadel DLC,
yes.
for 3. Uh, yeah, it's. I mean, we should maybe not at this exact moment, but we should probably, like, that entire DLC is one of the best things I've ever done in a game. The Citadel DLC is literally a giant love letter to everyone who played Mass Effect.
Yeah, they
It
took, yeah, dude,
it is
absolutely.
it is there are so many jokes, so many references, so many uh again, like, kind of
All
like Mass
those
Effect
gifts.
insider baseball, so to speak, in that DLC. Like, if anybody outside of Mass Effect just played that Citadel DLC, like, they'd have a good time and they would enjoy it. But if you played Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, and then got to that Citadel DLC and played it, like it is just littered with just so much fun, goofy, enjoyable stuff about Mass Effect.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, they even like brought in like the Shepard's dancing meme, like his awful dancing that everybody would just create little clips of on the internet and just all different variations that they acknowledged that.
well, yeah, again, it's a running gag throughout the series. Like even in Mass Effect 1, like there's certain parts on the Citadel where you can just run up and you can hit A and your Shepard just dances and he just does this one little dance. It's all he has. It's all he's got, and he works it.
He
Uh,
does. He
and
really
then
does.
they brought it back in 2 as kind of a joke, and then you can even do it at parts in 3, and then yeah, in the Citadel DLC, they make a whole song and dance about it. I mean, pun intended, but like it's I mean, again, it's one of those things. It's just so inherently Mass Effect, and it's so funny, and like I mean, again,
It's
that's one of
such a
those.
complex. Yeah, it is like you said, it is the biggest love letter. It's such a compliment to, especially if you know the ins and outs of the game as you've played maybe through it quite a few times. That DLC means so much because it's so you just get it so well, and it's so amazing.
I mean, if the in that DLC, like actually, I guess I should back up. In Mass Effect 1, particularly in the original release, less so in the Legendary Collection because the load times aren't as bad. But Mass Effect 3 or in Mass Effect 1, when you moved in between sections of the Citadel, you took an elevator, and the elevators used to take like a minute or two because that was a loading screen essentially. And so they would have these conversations in elevators, or sometimes the elevator voice would be an ad or news. And so
Yeah,
in one of those elevator voices is an advertisement for an Elcor doing Shakespeare. And it talks about like Elcor is an alien race. They're kind of like I mean,
elephants,
yeah, it's the
realistically.
closest thing you can compare them to. Like they don't have giant trunks, but they do kind of. They're big and burly, and they walk on all fours. Um, yeah, maybe more like gorillas might be closer,
It's
or
like a
like
gorilla elephant. Yeah.
yeah. But they also they don't emote. Uh,
No.
they mostly uh they mostly do a lot of their interspecies communication between other Elcor through like pheromone sense, and so when Elcor need to talk to any other species, they have to uh, basically
Form
state their
words.
intentions. They have to state their intentions. So like if it was making a joke, it would be like a sarcastic,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
sarcastic
They
witticism.
literally have to say, "I'm
Yeah,
being funny." Like,
yeah.
like,
So the whole joke is that why would they do Shakespeare? Because and one, I mean, again, that's a human thing, is and Shakespeare gets overacted and yada yada. So now you
yeah.
have this kind of emotionless husk trying to do Shakespeare. And so in Mass
Yeah.
Effect 3 in the Citadel DLC, if you go down to the end of the strip, there is an Elcor doing Shakespeare. I about fell out of my fucking chair the first time I heard it.
I could imagine.
Because again, it's something that got referenced one time in an elevator, and you might not have even heard it because it's like they have a bunch of those different load screens or load sections in the elevator in the Citadel, and especially in the Legendary Collection, you don't even like the load times are so fast, you don't even hear those. Like you literally get in and out of those elevators.
Right.
So there are people who might have never even heard that and saw that and was like, "Why is this Elcor doing Shakespeare?" But the first time I saw it, dead serious, I about fell out of my chair. I was dying. It's like, and it still makes me laugh because it's just the most hilariously absurd thing.
Right.
Um,
It really is. I mean, because like I think one of the most, I, I, I guess the one that tickled me the most was in that DLC when you are attempting to get to your ship, which is the Normandy SR2. It's being hijacked,
SR3 at that point.
When you get to that point, there's this part of it where you get in, but you can't get into the ship. And throughout the
Oh,
beginning of Mass Effect 3, one of your assistant lies remarks to how she lost her expensive toothbrush, and you really don't ever see any headway on that throughout the rest of the game. It's just kind of like a lost little
yeah,
conversation
just a
that you never
random
get to
tidbit.
finish.
Yeah,
Yeah,
random tidbit.
because most of the random tidbits in the game by all characters, you could actually complete them and get them what they wanted. But that one, for some reason, you couldn't. And I believe maybe that bugged people. I don't know. But in this DLC, they essentially kind of closed that little loop for whatever it was. And it is the reason why you get to break into the Normandy. It almost acts like a, a lockpick, a little damn toothbrush. And
It's
the scene of like your guy, your character, Commander Shepard, realizing that that toothbrush is about to save the day is freaking priceless.
yeah, it's. I mean, again, it's just them bringing little things into the forefront. I mean, yeah, a lot of stuff gets referenced later. Even if it is just another dialogue line, some random point in the game. Uh, but again, like they really try to bring stuff back and reward you for paying attention and for remembering um, and again playing off of just the lore of the game and stuff that people have said, even if it is just like again goofy nonsense. Like again, it's this whole little dialogue tree about her losing her toothbrush. Um, and then and then in this DLC it comes back to save the day because she went and got another toothbrush, the same toothbrush that's super fancy and whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
It was what the Mass Effect, the something Pro Mark with Mass Effect.
yeah, it's
I
like the Pro Mark IV with
Any
that
Mass
uses
Effect
like
fields.
MIDI Mass Effect fields to help break up plaque or something. It's
Dude, I
so
mean, like, it's so amazing.
yeah, and then the
Yes.
whole point is like you get to this spot and then yeah, they can't get in the main airlock hatch is sealed and they can't get in, and so then there's a hatch in the floor and they're like, well, how do we open it? We can't, like we can't pick it. We don't have the time. Well, we could maybe pop the lock if we could create a small enough Mass Effect field, which
Yeah.
Mass Effect in this whole thing is like it's like the manipulation of like dark energy and like dark matter. But it essentially works as like kind of a way to it sort of like the Force to a point.
Yeah.
This is the short version of that. Uh, but yeah, so like nobody can make a small enough Mass Effect field because certain characters had the ability to do that, and so she just pulls out her toothbrush and
And they both look at it and she turns it on and it's
yeah,
like it is hilarious.
yeah. It's I mean again that's the other thing is it's so well written throughout all the games. Like there's in every game, there's great drama, there's great comedy, there's great action. Um, so like it really hits a nice range of everything that you can kind of feel or do, and it really, you're not. I would say that you're always on a high, but at least in like one area or another, like you're kind of feeling that. Like if you're at a high in the action, you might be feeling the drama or uh, the comedy at that point. But
Well,
like
yeah.
but then when
I
the
mean,
action
like,
dies down, you might pick up more of the drama instead of the action part. So like
it
it does a great job of keeping highs going in other ways, at least if you find those things interesting. Um,
it is. I mean, like, what do you call it? Like you were saying, is like one of the key factors to its massive replayability is like what I was mentioning earlier, how you get to choose what squad mates accompany you on missions.
yeah,
Is there is so much great dialogue that could go from like serious to corny to to hilarious dialogue, and you could miss out on it by not bringing that character who has that specific dialogue set or that personality. I mean, my favorite like build up from all of that stuff from Mass Effect 1 to 3 wasn't also in that DLC. And it was through my Mass Effect Legendary Edition playthrough in that Citadel DLC when you're in transit to get to the Normandy to get to that part with the toothbrush to get into it. During the in transit scene, I had chosen Rex and Edie, which is the artificial intelligence on the ship, who gains a body. I took them both with me, and Joker's flying the car, who he is the pilot of the Normandy. And as Edie gets, she is the ship's AI. As her connection gets severed, I about died because her AI body reacted to it, and her eyes go like all haywire and fly side to side.
Yeah.
And Rex Rex looks at her and he's like, "Uh-huh. Is she supposed to do that?" And then Joker and then Shepard look back, and then she has her eyes off in different directions. She's like, "I'm fine." And they're looking at it's I couldn't contain myself. I was dying so bad. And that's the like whole thing is each character, like those moments are different because of the character's personality. It's so great.
Yeah, everybody brings their own bit to it, and then again, it's just a testament to their writing. And I mean, sometimes, to be fair, most of the time it's usually just a couple of lines change. Um, but I mean, sometimes it really does make all the difference. And I mean,
It does.
you find it better too if you bring the people that you actually like enjoy having in your squad. Like, oh, these
Yeah.
are my favorite people, so I'll bring them along.
Well, even missions. So you learn actually pretty quickly when you do a lot of these missions. You can bring your squad mates on with. A lot of them are pretty obvious on which character you should bring with you. So depending on like those missions that you bring certain characters with you, if it's obvious, like, hey, I should bring this person with me because it seems like it would that this mission matters for them, or it seems like it's something they would do. And odds are you're usually right because you can get more dialogue out of that person because actually that mission is more parallel for them, I guess. What's the best word for it? Is it means something to them, I guess,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean that's also part of it. Um, I mean, perfect example, like Tim was talking about in Mass Effect 1. Uh, like you can choose, like you have to find Liara's mother, Matriarch Benezia.
Hmm.
Um, and you have to go find her, but you don't have to bring Liara on that mission if you don't want to.
Nope. Nope. You can
Um,
save. You can essentially spare her from killing her own mother.
yeah,
Uh,
but you lose out on a lot of dialogue
yeah.
and a bit of character building, honestly, for Liara. Because in the first one, she is very much like a deer in the headlights, kind of. I mean, she isn't completely naive, but like she is very kind of again like young. You know, she has her face in a book, and she's very
Yeah, you can
uh
tell she's very shy, not very sociable. She's very socially awkward.
yeah.
Uh,
She doesn't spend
yeah.
time around people. She hasn't. Well, she's traveled the galaxy a bit. It's mostly been to dig sites because she's an archaeologist.
And let's
Um,
be clear, the Asari race can live up to 1,000 years old, right?
yeah, they say around 1,000, but
And I think up to 100 to 200 years old, they're still considered like a young adult slash teenager,
uh,
right?
I don't remember what the exact like cutoff is, but yeah, I think it's like around 150. Like she's
Yeah.
very much still considered to be a very young Asari and more or less kind of like a teenager
Yeah.
or like maybe like young adult, like you would equate to us as like our young 20s.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like
So when you meet her, she's like just over 150.
no, she's only 104, I think, something like that. She's not 150 yet.
Oh.
Um, but I mean, I mean that's it's also one of the things about this game is again just playing. There's so much lore and so much history and so much uh like background about the galaxy as a whole
Yeah.
between all of the races. Um, and if you want to, I mean, this sounds like a really dorky thing to say, but it's one of my favorite parts about Mass Effect is that you can find out all this information in the game. Like, there's an entire thing called a codex, which is literally just where the game puts lore, and when you pick up on stuff from conversations or whatever, like you can go to a codex page and read about it. And
Yeah, that's the
I
beautiful thing I think about this game. Not, if I could put this in here real quick, is a lot of games create outside lore on websites or on their actual website pages, or it's fan made lore. The beautiful thing about Mass Effect is they did this all in game in a real way. So you could just go head deep, and there is seriously so much you can read into. It's crazy.
well, again, like to speak how much I love and enjoy this game. Like I've read all those codex entries multiple times, considering how many times I've played through the franchise at this point. Like
Yeah.
I've read all of them. I know way too much about Mass Effect off the top of my head.
It's so worth it though.
I mean, I'm not saying it isn't, but I mean that's just the thing. Is like, I mean, like you were saying, it is one of the things that annoys me about some modern games is that there is lore, but like it's not in the game. I'm like, well, if it's not in the game, then it has no point.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Mass Effect does have outside media. Like there's some graphic novels, there's some books. There was an animated movie. And all of those tell like good solid stories that can help feed into the universe, but none of it is overly important to the universe that you like, or at the very least you get the general sense of what each of those is inside of the game. Like the first book
It
they wrote was Mass Effect. Shoot, I want to say Ascension, and it tells the story of Captain Anderson, who is your commanding officer in Mass Effect 1, and actually throughout the series, really. It tells the story about how he tried to become a Spectre, which is what you become in Mass Effect 1, which is like a intergalactic, I guess. I mean, I don't want to say mercenary because that's not right, but like you kind of become an enforcer or like a spec ops enforcer for the overall overarching government that governs the galaxy. And so like Shepard is the first human Spectre, or becomes the first human Spectre, but Captain Anderson tried before, and it in the game it tells you like how he failed and what happened. And so like you get the general story, but Mass Effect Ascension is literally that whole story. Like it's just done in more detail and
Yeah.
fills in some of the blanks and stuff like that. And that's
Do
more
you-
or less where the books and the movie and stuff come in, is
when
they fill
when
these
did that book come out?
plots.
In correlation to
I think it came out when Mass Effect, or well, I think it came out a little after, but
remember in the Citadel DLC, remember they I think they paid a little homage to that stuff when you can find those audio files of well, which is the point of the DLC. The apartment you acquire is Captain Anderson.
yeah.
It's his apartment, and his audio files, I think that kind of like pay homage to that book stuff, I would imagine, because that seems in correlation from what you're saying, because I didn't know this. You learn some of that stuff through his audio files that are littered throughout the apartment.
A little bit,
Plus,
yeah. There's
plus
something
that
there.
TV thing, I think, in the bar, you can listen to an
Yeah,
interview,
his news interview.
So
which is
I,
neat as hell. It's the crazy thing, like what Brendan was saying. This game is so beautifully executed at not breaking your immersion. Like so many games that do RPGs or things like that that miss the mark like that, that have so much lore that they do outside of the game compared to like putting it in the game, because you're so involved and it's great, you know.
I did want to
Were you
make
gonna
a.
say?
Go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead. I was
I
waiting
was
for
just
you.
gonna say. Whoops. I just want to make a quick mention. Joker is actually played by Seth Green, and
Oh yeah,
Captain Anderson is
There's-
played
yep,
by
yep.
David Keith.
Keith David.
Keith David.
Other
There we
way
go.
around.
Backwards.
Joker is by far the most loved character in all of Mass Effect.
Well, I don't know about that, but
I
I
mean,
mean, well, I mean that's the thing is so I mean also Mass Effect 2 and 3, Miranda Lawson is voiced by Yvonne Strahovski.
oh,
She was
yep.
in yeah, she's in Chuck. But recently she's been in The Handmaid's Tale. Um, uh, I mean, it's got a ton of like they pay homage to a lot of sci-fi. Like Lance Henriksen is Admiral Hackett.
Mhm.
And he was in Alien, in the Alien franchise. So like they pulled a lot of people from like sci-fi history, and stuff like that to voice these people. Even in little roles.
Yeah, Jessica Chobot, that famous host for IGN back in the day, she got herself imbued into Mass Effect 3.
Yeah. Um, Although I think actually back to Seth Green, what if his Twitter profile, not his profile, but like his header or whatever, like not his actual like profile picture that you see, but like the big picture, like if you go to his page or whatever,
Hmm.
it's still a picture of the Normandy. He hasn't changed it.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't if I were him either. That is,
No.
I mean, who's to say he's not in this upcoming one? You know?
Um, but yeah, like it's littered with famous voice actors, and actresses.
Yeah.
Uh, if you have a keen enough ear, you can hear them. But yeah, like it's, I mean, that's the other side to this is there is since it's all fully voice acted, um, pretty they did a very good job, especially outside of the first one, of not repeating people. Uh, oh yeah, and shit, in 2 and 3, Arya Taluk is voiced by Carrie Ann Moss, Trinity from The Matrix.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Oh,
yeah, so I like they've got a ton of people. Of varying degrees of success from all across like science fiction and stuff,
yeah.
to fill these roles. Um,
But anyways, we really appreciate you guys sticking with us for this one. We really hope you guys appreciated this. Again, this is just another part of the deployment series. This is obviously completely different from what we've been doing prior to. Anyways, we really hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, 5 stars, follow, thumbs up, whatever you can do on whatever platform. And we will see you guys next time. Thanks.
Later, guys.
Thanks for listening.